Hello and welcome to the StartupBREW Fargo podcast. StartupBREW is a weekly event hosted by Emerging Prairie in downtown Fargo, where we believe that entrepreneurship is energized over brews. Each week, we bring entrepreneurs, founders, and innovators together because we believe they succeed when they have access to each other and the community that supports them. This week, we welcomed David Haukaas and Josh Owens with Stax Financial Technologies and Levi, Otis, and Kyle Reierson with QR Posts. We're going to kick things off today with Levi, a North Dakota native and the Director of Government Affairs and Policy Development for Ellingson Water Management. In 2020, he and his brother-in-law co-founded QR Posts, a farm management web application that helps farmers manage all of their hunting and other land access requests. Let's listen in.
Well, thank you, Emma. Thank you, Emerging Prairie, and everybody else that believes that North Dakota is the best place to grow a business. I also believe that. Family moved to North Dakota, back to North Dakota in 1996, and there's a high value in the entrepreneurial dream that we do share in North Dakota. QR Posts, what is it? Well, to help you, it's not a Boeing airplane, but to help you understand what QR Posts is, I want you to go into your daily life and think about. You've got a project you need to get done, your phone's ringing, your boss is bothering you, your wife's bothering you, kids are sick at school, and your phone is ringing off the hook, people are coming to your office for coffee, and you're like getting frustrated, right? You shut the door, you lock the door, you turn off your phone, you text your mom, say, please don't call me till tomorrow, like I often do. My mother's in the crowd, so had to give her a little shot. So anyway, you need to get your stuff done, right? And I work in agriculture. I work for a fantastic family that owns a construction company. We do drain tile, oil and gas pipelines, and they're wonderful. They support me in this endeavor, and so I do want to thank them, the Ellingson family. But through the years, I've gotten to know a lot of farmers and working on their behalf. In private property rights. And so when a farmer is under a combine or he's in the field with his kids, with his family, with the hired men, trying to get the crop off the field so that we can have cheap food, cheap beer, the best in the world, they get a little frustrated when those of us from town keep coming and can we hunt your land? Can we do this? And then yes, you can, but the phone calls keep ringing and you're on the phone, or your wife's at home. She doesn't know who you gave permission to. So my brother-in-law, Kyle, and I have had this conversation for nearly a decade about how do we fix the communication process between folks in town who want to hunt or tourists that come from Wisconsin or Arkansas or Illinois or Ohio or Indiana. You can talk to the North Dakota tourism folks. We have hunters that come to North Dakota from all over the world, and we expect our farmers to kind of be that first line of communication, and we're just not equipping them with the right tools. So Kyle and I, last year when COVID kind of started and the menus, and remember we were all using bags to fill our gas cans, and it's like, geez, like, it was a good thing that we were all sanitizing, but holy cow, it got kind of out of control. And Kyle and I were in a restaurant. We look over, and there's a QR code for our menu. And then we look over to the next table, and there's a couple older folks, and they had gray hair, and they were using their phone on the QR code. And we said, that's it. How do we fix the communication problem between these farmers, the landowners, and the people that want to access their property? Well, what if we put a QR code on a posted sign so they can just pop up their camera and ask permission through a text? And so Kyle, my brother-in-law, is a web developer for an energy company, and that's not the correct title. I called him IT guy once, and he was like, I am not an IT guy. So when he's up here later, he can tell you actually what he does. I don't know. But I'm obviously not the tech guy in this world. So what QR Post does is you pop up your phone just like you're going to read a menu at Applebee's or Buffalo Wild Wings or something more local. And it gives you a form, your name, your telephone number, and note field. So for me, my beautiful daughter's here. I would say, hey, Emma, my daughter and I'd like to hunt your property, and then I mark it Tuesday, Wednesday, just like you do on hotel reservation. And Emma could say, no, Levi, you're kind of a pain in my hip, decline, right? So she receives a text, and she says, yes, I would love for you to hunt my land. Please enter on the north side of the field that you're requesting. So when she does that, we receive the receipt, and then when my daughter and I go out and hunt that property, now if a game warden or another hunter comes up, another hunter could stand the sign and says, sorry, it's booked for those times. And if the game warden says, hey, do you have permission to be on this property? Pull up my phone and here's my receipt. So I know I'm missing, I had a lot of notes here, but one other thing that we learned in the legislature, I go to legislature quite a bit, and posting laws are always a hot topic, but liability. People say, well, I don't mind if people hunt my property, I just don't want to be sued if they're on there and they get hurt. We did find an attorney, helped us out with a liability waiver, so you do have to acknowledge a liability waiver saying I'm not going to sue if I sprain my ankle in a badger hole. So we can answer a lot of the questions, and I hope I did okay on figuring this out or explaining it to you, but now I'm rambling.
Next up, David took the stage to share about Stax, a B2C app designed to matchmake consumers with companies who share similar value sets with the goal of propelling conscious capitalism. Let's listen in.
Thank you so much, Emma. It's great to be here today. Seriously, thank you for coming out. Like Emma mentioned, my name is David Haukaas, co-founder and CEO of Stax. Just brief background on myself. So I have worked in the investment management industry for the last 15 years, both in the United States and in the Middle East, leading financial teams in mergers and acquisitions to business and product development. My co-founder, which I know we'll get into a little bit later on, but it's worth noting, Josh Owens, he's sitting up front. Easily one of the coolest and most interesting guys you'll meet. He's former military intelligence and most recently was working with Palantir Technologies for the last 8 years, doing all of the IT building and product development for them as well. So what is Stax? Well, it seems to make perfect sense that somebody from the investment management industry and finance, as well as with Palantir, would create kind of a dating app, right? Perfect sense. So what we actually have created, or are in the process of creating, I should say, is almost like something like Match.com, but instead of matching up people to people, we're actually matching up people with companies, trying to create a new experience in the marketplace and a new way for companies can interact with people as well. And what we're trying to do is help individuals identify what are the values that matter to the most to them individually. So do you value things from an environmental standpoint? Are you a big proponent for diversity on boards, carbon emissions, whatever it might be? And what we do is then we also bring in thousands of different data points from industry about companies that are out there as well and see what are they really doing and what are the values and vision of those companies going forward as well. Match them up. Because the issue that we've seen is that every day we're buying goods and services from companies, banking to products to you name it, but we don't really know what are the values that that company has, and it makes sense. This information is highly disaggregated throughout the marketplace. It's in non-user-friendly formats. We don't have time to dig into everything that we put into our shopping cart or however we shop online. On top of this, it's completely muddled by marketing, so you can't really know what to trust in this type of respect. Through the data points that we're bringing together, we simplify that entire process. So you're going to be able to log on to our app easily and in kind of a gamified way, be able to identify your values, and then no matter what type of purchasing that you're going to be doing, whether it's for banking services or whether you're standing in the aisle at Target, we're going to be able to help you make the best decision for you so that way you can actually feel really good about your purchases and ensuring that the dollars that you're spending go beyond, so that way you're not voting against your best interest with your purchases, but you're actually voting for it. So on top of that general solution, we're also going to be able to vertical that digital asset into a number of other solutions, which goes from job boards to investment management as well. So we're early on. We just started our capital campaign, but we've done a lot of development. I think I still have a few minutes to give some shout-outs to North Dakota. Perfect. Okay. A brief background. So while I've been a North Dakota resident for the last 7 years, I've been living overseas for the last 7 years as well. Josh is from Michigan. When we were talking about starting Stax, we had no real plans to be in North Dakota, to be completely honest. But fate in a really positive way came together with this. So Heather and I were actually visiting family back in March of 2020, and right before we were going to fly back, it turns out pandemic hit and all of the borders closed. So Heather and I had our travel on suitcases, and we were actually here for 6 months straight, living out of a travel on suitcase. God bless her parents for having them in our home that entire time. But it was great, because what we were able to do is start to see more and more up close to the amazing community that's really been developing within the Fargo, North Dakota region. When we started to look at some of the programs that the states offer, from Innovate ND to the internship program to Paul at the Small Business Development Corporation, to you name it, the ecosystem here from a capital standpoint is phenomenal to try out ideas and to start to grow it. The support system with John Mahachek helping us get connected, unparalleled, and especially when we started taking a look at some of the other states around the country. When we also were saying, all right, we're developing a tech company, we need a pipeline of tech talent that's not only from universities, but also that is another system. Hearing and learning more about the Emerging Digital Academy is a critical lifeline to us to be able to grow, frankly. And it's been a cool journey growing the business here. And frankly, this is where we want to call home. This is the place that we want to be able to grow Stax going forward. And it's because of what everybody's been talking about, trying to develop the community. For us, it was a home run. So we're really, really looking forward to be building out here, starting something special, and seeing where it goes. Thank you.
After the presentation, Levi was joined with his brother-in-law and co-founder, Kyle Reierson, and David was joined by his co-founder, Josh Owens, for a live Q&A session with the audience, along with our host, Emma McIntyre, who is also the lead coordinator of StartupBREW Fargo. Let's listen in.
So we're going to kick it off with your co-founders. So we had some people speak with their co-founders a few weeks ago, and I had the one co-founder introduce the other co-founder because I thought it would be funny. So you pick if you want to introduce yourself or if you would like to let whoever did your 6-minute presentation introduce you.
There you go. Thanks.
No, that's good.
Hi, everybody. Joshua Owens here. As he said, former U.S. Air Force for about 6 years, worked in linguistics. I then took the GI Bill out to Columbia University, where I studied computer science, mathematics, and music. Happy to get into that circuitous path, but then following that, I took a brief foray into medical IT and then launched off into Palantir across the Middle East, particularly in the UAE, Jordan, and throughout Europe. Also happy to touch on some high-level issues there before running into David, who was kind enough to share some of his visions for a future in responsible finances and deepening technology in a way that is beneficial broadly. So we got to discussing, and Stax was born. Looking forward to answering some questions.
I get the self-introduction. That was good. Yes. Yeah.
That was way better than my introduction. My name's Kyle Reierson. I'm from Devils Lake, North Dakota. I went to school at UND for information technology. Currently work for a company in Colorado, P2 Energy Solutions, and do business intelligence and reporting.
Awesome.
And web development.
IT, I heard. So we're going to jump into our audience Q&A. If you guys have questions, raise your hands. I'll get to you. Or you can tweet them in at StartupBREW Fargo. However, we always kick off every week with some celebration. So I'd love to hear what you guys are most proud of in the work that you've done in the last year. And you get to delegate somebody from your team to take lead on it. QR Post team, you wanna kick us off while they're tweeting in all their really impressive questions? Oh, this is like a meeting of the minds. Sorry, I don't have anybody to talk to. Hi, Danny. How's it going? Okay, you ready?
Sure.
Yeah, perfect.
One thing that I think we're really proud of is the embrace that we've got from personal friends that are customers, right? That have taken it and said, "Holy smokes, this is a brilliant idea." Organizations and companies that have looked at what we're doing and saying, "If you tweak this, we can use it," right? And so having somebody as versatile as Kyle being able to change on the fly and make a small change, and now a major corporation is using our company to make their business process better. That's fantastic. And working with landowners that I get to work with on my day job, that's pretty fun too. So making sure our friends inside the city and our friends out in the rural areas are coming together and having a mutual respect and understanding each other's needs, that's been a major highlight in itself.
Heck yeah. Stax team?
Yeah, while it may be kind of a cop-out, getting through the pandemic and building the start of what we hope will be a fairly significant and, how to put it, game-changing company during a pandemic with a small, remote, diverse team, while also investing in our community here, like working with Mason to build out a prototype app from 2 states away, while working with a marketing team who I still haven't actually met in person. We're doing exceptionally well, in my opinion, to create a strong team and a strong product through what I would consider to be extremely difficult circumstances. So we're really proud of that and looking forward to taking the next steps.
Heck yes. Well, that gave our audience enough time to send in some virtual questions via Twitter. And we're going to start with the good ones. So Patty sent in the following question, as much as you can share. She asked, she'd love to hear, how do you make money? Is it transaction? Is it subscription? For Stax, and then also for QR posts.
Yeah, we'll jump in first if you don't mind. Yeah. There are a few ways that we can make money, but we're currently pre-revenue. So we're still in fundraising and build phase. I'll let David dig into the future prospectus.
Great. So with our app, it will be completely free to users, is the key thing. The way that we're going to build the revenue stream is from a business-to-business standpoint. So in a lot of ways, it's going to be similar to how Pinterest or Instagram monetizes it, that companies will be able to build out their company profile. So it would be helpful with a visual aid, but trying to kind of paint a picture a little bit, not only be like a company logo, but it would have, for example, Patagonia a strong match to your value set or week? That's some of the unique data asset that we're really bringing forward. But there's other things that then the companies will be able to build out, such as news feeds, such as we just planted 1 million trees, or we've got a sale going on, some other type of social media type of things like videos, boosting content, cost per click, cost per view, items like that. That's like from the kind of straightforward interface B2B standpoint, but we're going to also be doing it in a way where it's values first. So in a change from what Facebook or Google do, where it's who's paying you the most, we're going to lead with it's the values first, the values match for consumers first, and then when it's all of it high, then some of the monetization of boosting or whatever will come through in that way. The other element, which is a critical component to why we even started this company, is we're big proponents for using commerce, using capitalism as a force for good. And a little bit of a homage to Heather and a lot of what she does in her public speaking and a lot of the thought leadership she does too. It's the fact that the more that we can illustrate through the behaviors of people making different behaviors that are aligned with their personal values, we can then resell some of those studies and insights back to companies, back to industry to say, if you started to do X, Y, Z, if you did, for example, get your board to at least 50% not just white-haired men, you might be able to increase your profits by 20%, especially with this demographic. If you start to work on carbon neutrality, you'd be able to do these things. No shade to the white-haired men in the audience. It's just it's been a good run. So like the fact is that we can use this as an activist. You might have heard of like engine number one and some of the things that they could do with ExxonMobil and how they start to push the board in a different direction. That's some of the aggregated insights that we can then sell back to industry and push it forward. There's other revenue streams, but that's pretty much the first phase.
Heck yes.
So the main revenue streams for us are obviously selling the signs. We make a little bit on the signs. We partner with a company in town called Short Printer. Another one, so it's basically free for landowners to use. They can register and sign up for an account with us. And if the landowner chooses, they don't have to charge for access to their land. We take a commission off of when they charge to access our land. One other revenue stream might be, we haven't implemented it yet, but adding a little bit of advertising, tasteful advertising to the request form when a hunter scans the sign and the form comes up. We're thinking of doing a little bit of advertising there. And right now those are our two main revenue streams.
Heck yes. Can you share real quick, how long does it take to post your land on QR Post? The amount of time for a landowner?
If they have all their information, 2 minutes, 5 minutes per field, yeah. It's not too long at all.
Heck yes. I saw a hand get raised. Jake.
Have you guys spent time with Land Trust or some of the other players that have the online platforms for some way to collaborate?
Yeah, that's part of the thing of being proud is when governments or organizations, big corporations call and say, holy cow, you are going to simplify our process. And one of those may or may not have contacted us, and we don't want to put the cart before the horse or chickens before they hatch or whatever. But it's, if talking about agriculture and space, if Elon Musk is listening and he wants to post Mars, hey, we might go public.
We did get a question in online for the Stax team. How do you guys determine a minimum viable product?
Yeah, that's a fair question, and I think it's like, in general, that is a question that needs to be answered broadly by those who working in the software industry. Like, what is the MVP for you? For us, that is sufficient data to, on day zero, provide our first user value when they log onto the platform. It's a sufficient platform to move that data around, present it in a way that's useful and that allows that user to navigate it successfully, answer the question that they showed up to ask, like, is this product good for me? Is it good for the environment? Is it aligned with my values? So that the ability to answer that question on day zero for our first user defines, in my opinion, the MVP. I don't, as a data person, I probably am showing my back-end cards here. Like, I'm not terribly motivated by the front end. Like, I don't need glitz and glamour. I don't need something shiny. It just has to do what it's supposed to do. So for MVP for me is something that can get traction and does the job. I think that's a pretty simple answer, and I'm happy to dig in for whomever asked it if you want more details, but that's what it looks like for me. Do you have anything to add?
I think I'm here for the glitz and the glamour. So, but yeah, I mean, it's basically, in building on Josh's point as well, we're already contracting with some industry-leading data providers from a variety of different spaces to pull in that data to not only start to develop insights before we even get user on day one, but also so that way there is something that people can react to as well. On top of that, with the minimal viable product, a huge part of this is consumer behavior. So we're doing a lot of iterations on the app UX as well to see anything from thumb placement. Where do people like some of the functionality there? What are some of the visual aids that people enjoy? What do they like? What they dislike? Because we're trying to strip it down, make it as simple and easy as possible to be a natural fit in people's lives. So that way it's more of a painkiller that people may or may not have even realized rather than a vitamin. Because if it's a vitamin type of solution, we're going to be out of business.
We'll take one last question from the audience right here in the front row.
I'm really interested in the objective of working with investors. I know give us a little bit of idea, because I just had a client of mine, we just got rid of a very bad investor that was not valued for it. Got some other investors to buy him out, so now we've got value centered. And the company almost went under, and it's an international company. So can you give us some ideas on what your thoughts are there from an investor match to other industries?
So sure, and just to make sure that I'm understanding, are you talking about investors into the company to help us start to grow?
I've got $10 million to invest, $5 million, whatever.
Great, let's talk afterwards.
I think he does mean like the 2 or 3 years down the road when we get into investments, like rather than.
Sure. So two separate things that I'll kind of tackle it from. One, from like actual investors to like we're starting our like Reg D 506C, like accredited investor launch. A key component of any startup strength is we have to have value aligned investors. Otherwise, it's going to be an utter nightmare when we're trying to develop things. There's going to be massive ups and downs that we're aware of, and a lot that we're not aware of, that we need people to ride out the storm and have some good mix of quiet money as well as advisory type of money that comes on board with it too. If we then take a look about 3 or 4 years down the road, where one of the verticals that we can start to work on is also helping do value aligned investing, which is a major passion actually where we started with this project, because I was doing this for the Middle East Fund. That is helping to demystify the utter chaos that is out there about the investment universe, from robo-advisors to ESG investing, and it's a hot mess of marketing with only really a few key ways that value is driven. So we have deferred more of the investment and portfolio analysis out a few years because of the regulatory cost as well as the complications. With our initial solution, we just want to nail it out of the gate, so that way then we can pivot and vertical some of the ways that we see as viable options with that digital asset we're building.
Heck yeah. Well, that kind of concludes our time. That was a fantastic Q&A, my goodness. We like to wrap with this final question. We have roughly 87 of your best friends here. We gathered them just for you. Surprise party. I'm wondering, what is one thing that each of us can do to help accelerate your guys' work? Let's start over here.
All right.
For us, I think the quickest way is respecting what a landowner or a farmer goes through on the day-to-day basis, right? I know, working on behalf of farmers, I'm also their biggest critic, so I know I can tell you every single thing that maybe a perception would be, but they've got a tough job to do, and as long as we respect their private property rights and request land access and try to ease that communication, the better it is going to be for every sportsman that wants to access, or bird watcher, or photographer, or hiker. So as a community, reaching out to those landowners and understanding what they go through on a day-to-day basis is going to just make it much easier for us to want them to open up their communication.
Heck yes. And tell people to register for it. If you know of anybody, send them the link.
I'll kick in a few things, and then I'll hand it over to Josh if there's anything else as well. The first, I would say, that would be tremendously helpful is we just threw our website up, and there's a mailing list to kind of keep up to date with things. So if you go to getstax.co, please sign up for our mailing list. We'd love to send some updates as we go on this development journey. And along with that, we are actively looking for people to do prototype testing with. So if you want to see how an app is built and get some feedback into that process, we would love to have conversations with you and get your ideas. So literally, if everybody here we could do a feedback session with, that would be amazing. On another note, and this is for us as founders, but I think it could go for the overall entrepreneurial community, check in with other co-founders or check in with other founders of startups as well. This is a really tough journey to start a company that's like a mental game that is unlike anything else. So check in with them. Just send us a message. Be like, how's it going? Like, good luck. Like, just something like that can be a huge lift on some of the days where you really need it. So support each other. Things like this are fantastic for that.
Yeah, and I would only add like a general, like something to keep in the back of your mind. Like, be thoughtful in how you spend your money. Consider how your actions as you navigate through the marketplace have knock-on effects, like who it is that you're supporting. And I'll echo, pop on to getstax.co, getstax.co, to sign up for a mailing list, where you look forward to hearing from some subset of you.
Heck yes. Let's give them a big round of applause. Thank you, guys.
That's all we have for this week's StartupBREW Fargo. Thanks for listening in. StartupBREW Fargo is energized by Emerging Prairie, an organization dedicated to connecting and celebrating the entrepreneurial ecosystem. We'd also like to thank the following sponsors for their support: Pro Resources, Brady Mertz, the FMCVB, Office Sign Company, Fargo Parks, and Midco. See you next time.